Welcome back to the channel. We know that the MCU is less popular than it was, just 2 or 3 years ago. You can see it in the box office receipts. You can definitely see it in the interest of the characters when they're on their MCU shows on Disney Plus. And now we have some more evidence from that Park Place. They had an exclusive tip from a toy insider revealing that the Marvel and Star Wars merch sales are absolutely struggling right now. And I wanted to bring the only person I know that brings 6 figures a week home, 6 action figures. Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing really well, Wes. Good to be here.
So what do you think about that Park Place? I know you've seen some information there before. Not always the most reliable source.
Yeah, not always the most reliable source. WDW Pro, hit or miss for me. I think a lot of the time they traffic in rumor and not in fact. But in this particular case, this pretty much lines up with everything that I know about the toy industry and what's going on in it right now.
What's interesting is what they're seeing with Marvel almost mirrors what has happened to Star Wars. Just as far as flooding the market with new female characters leading the franchises, all of a sudden we see a dip as far as the interest in sales of merchandise, which is where they make their big money. George Lucas is not a billionaire because of Star Wars movies. He's a billionaire because of Star Wars merchandise. This is what the insider had to say first. Toy company holding licenses have mandates from companies operating in 3 huge consumer categories. Princesses are doing fine for most license holders, no issues. Lucasfilm is a disaster, with new characters having no consumer pool, and worse, even classic characters are now seeing diminishing returns. Star Wars were previously the most expensive royalties at Disney, but following the veritable deluge of markdowns at retail, many of the bigger guys were able to negotiate not only rebates, but even concessions on next product. Also, that brand is no longer a theatrical brand, didn't go over well with business partners. They've been able to diminish the interest in another huge franchise, Star Wars, killing the interest in the old characters now as well, yet they continue on with these strategies.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, and I think that it's accurate. I think that they are forcing companies to, it's like, oh, you have this license and you're going to put out this assortment of figures. Well, we're going to need 50% of that to be female. I can see those kind of pushes happening in complete opposition to what the sales data is. When it comes to Marvel, they're probably the best position to sell female figures. We probably do the best when they have a good mix, because there's always strong female characters that people want, that they love, like your Rogues, your Psylocks, characters from the X-Men, mostly from the classic like 90s and you Claremont run up through the 90s X-Men. Those are always in demand, but a lot of the other characters are not. Like, for hardcore collectors like me, it's great to get like a Siren, but they give you a Siren before they give you a Banshee. If you gave me the choice, Siren or Banshee, who would I rather have? I'd take Banshee. It's just one of those things. It's a male action category. And as far as kids are concerned, for the most part, little boys don't want to play with girls unless those girls are super cool. McFarlane said it recently. He's absolutely right. Things haven't changed. They're trying to social engineer through the toy lines, and it's just not working out for their licensed partners.
It appears the MCU push by Kevin Feige has been a major loss leader as far as the sales. This is what the insider said. Marvel, both unit and licensing, are down roughly 50% of units and about 30% in dollars. Spider-Man, Cap, Iron Man are holding everything together at this point. Spider-Man is the only sub-brand showing growth in units and dollars and fan interest. Eternals was the worst across the board, but here is the general statement. Female heroes do not sell merchandise. Not so shocking that a brand that nobody really knew about, Eternals, you take them, you do all these sexuality and gender swaps and race swaps on the characters, and there's no interest, and they're tanking sales across the line.
No, it's a lot like, back when IDW relaunched Mask, and I'd had some conversations with them about that, about how to incorporate Mask into the universe and things like that they ended up doing, but I didn't end up on the book. When they launched it, and they swapped out, they race swapped Matt Tracker. I guess Brandon Easton, the writer, really wanted Matt Tracker, the leader of the Mask team, to be black. And I first saw that cover, I was like, oh, like something happened to Matt? Is like Hondo McLean, who was the black character on the show, was a member of the Mask team. Is he stepping up into like the leadership role? That's kind of cool. I could see that being interesting, like, especially if you do like a mystery of what happened to Matt. And they were like, no, that's Matt Tracker. And I said, oh, well, you just shot your entire property in the foot. It's not gonna sell. The comic's not gonna sell. And I was asked why, and I said, well, because there is no new Mask being produced with a black Matt Tracker in the lead to get new people interested. And so what you're trying to do is you're doing a nostalgia play, but you've taken away what people, like I said, people who were interested in masks back in the day and played with that toy line, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, oh, well, that's not my mask, and they're going to skip it. So when you do this with established properties, you alienate the existing fan base in the hopes that you're going to grab some new fan base. And as we've seen, that new fan base almost never shows up.
And they certainly haven't this time. And he kind of explains the scheme that Marvel Studios and Disney are kind of playing with here. He says, say you were going to ship a master carton of 8 plastic drinking cups to Walmart for them to sell individually. What would be the character mix confirmed by UPC sales and after the fact consumer data? Your ideal mix would be 2 each of Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Cap, and 1 each of Thor and Hulk. Of course, Marvel would ask for 50% representation for females, but you could deal it down to 25%, where Thor and Hulk are out, replaced by Black Widow and Wanda. Thor and Hulk outsell Black Widow by at least 8-1 already, with an even bigger gap for Wanda. The problem here is as the male heroes sell and you ship in more case packs, the female heroes sit back on the shelves and clog the pipeline, think thousands of stores in the US, and you end up getting all these markdowns. So they're intentionally changing the sales across the line just so they can show that they have good representation as far as female characters, but the audience isn't there and the retailers are not being able to sell these things.
I'm actually surprised that Hulk is on the lower end because from the action figure standpoint, I guess it's a different market. For action figures, it's a different market than, say, like mom's buying glasses for the kids to drink out of. But Hulk is always, the top 2 figures from Marvel are always Spider-Man and Hulk. Those are always the 2 that you cannot keep on the shelf. And there's a reason that Hasbro just dropped like 20 different Spider-Man figures using the same mold, but with just with slight variations, like different eye sizes and things like that. First appearance Spider-Man with the webs under the armpits, all using the same mold, but pushing out a ton of Spider-Man. It's because Spider-Man always sells. Hulk always sells. So yeah, when you, and you see this a lot with action figures because right now Marvel Legends action figures, Hasbro's gotten smart. They've switched over to allowing retailers to order solid cases. So that's why when you walk into Target, sometimes you see like a peg full of Sabretooth and you're like, well, where's everybody else? Well, it's because the only thing they got was a solid case of Sabretooth. So it allows them to pick and choose a little bit more, and I think that this is Hasbro's way of kind of mitigating those demands maybe from Disney or Marvel, is that, retailers can kind of now order what they need, at least from Hasbro. But yeah, you see that in if you get like a standard case, there's going to be like 2 Iron Man and then 1 of each of every other character. Invariably, a couple of those characters are not going to be as popular. They're going to sit on the shelf. It's all the same SKU as far as Target's concerned. So when they go and there's 18 Misty Knights there and they scan it, they go, well, we're not ordering any more of that because we've still got all that product on the shelf, not realizing that there's 7 other characters that are still in that case because the SKUs are all the same.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane that they're pushing with representation so hard at the expense of their own business and their business partners. But Marvel Studios and Marvel and Disney know what's going on. The insider continues, Marvel management know damn well that their creative decisions are impacting merchandising revenue, but they are trying to manage these things where merch sales from classic characters and masks balance out poor merch sales from the new Marvel characters. 2 regional observations for North America. Cap is the number 2 in the US, Iron Man 3rd, both behind Spider-Man. And in Canada, Cap is 3rd behind Iron Man. So Captain America is top 3 in both Canada and the USA. Other notes on Captain America, the blue t-shirt with S.H.I.E.L.D. is a USA bestseller. Falcon is Falcon outsells Falcon as Captain America in our clients' categories. None of these changes that they're doing, which started in comic books when they decided they were going to replace all the characters and they were going to make new kind of diverse versions of them, have taken in comic books. They've moved it up to the MCU. They're doing it in movies and obviously in streaming on Disney Plus, and it's still not working. Falcon, Sam Wilson, is a more popular character as Falcon than he is as Captain America, despite Captain America being a more popular mantle. But they continue going down this route, even knowing that they're costing people money in the long run. What's the goal here, Aaron?
I think the goal is what is it? ESG. Getting a good ESG rating for your company is look at how progressive we are. The interesting thing is that usually they're passive progressive, which is we do things that visually look good, but we're still making money. Like shrinking Finn on the Star Wars poster in China. It's like, oh look, we've got look at all this casting that this diverse casting that we've done, but then when it's going to affect the market, cut it back. So it's interesting to me that we're seeing that in the licensing side. I think that what you'll eventually see happening is you'll see somebody like a David Zaslav that comes in and is like, we need to maximize our profit. I think Chapek is very much profit minded. I think he's just got a war on all fronts right now within Disney because of all of the all of the pushback that he's getting from employees, activist employees. I think that you're eventually going to see Disney go the way of Warner Brothers, where they're going to pivot to profit and they're going to wipe out a lot of these initiatives that are happening.
Are any of the new Marvel characters that they've introduced, Phase 4, are any of them taking hold within the market? Or are they just all being kind of rejected?
The worst seller out of the new Thor wave for the movie was Armored Thor. That was the worst seller, but he was also 2 per case. And the main reason for that is because, as a toy seller, I can tell you, it didn't have an unmasked head. If it had an unmasked head, it would have sold better. People wanted to see Chris Hemsworth's his face. Kids want, unmasked characters. If you put out a Spider-Man and it's got a Peter Parker head, it's going to sell better than one that doesn't have a Peter Parker head. Kids love that. Aside from that, the worst selling figure in the line was actually Valkyrie. So there wasn't a lot of interest in her, even though it was a beautifully done action figure. There just wasn't a lot of interest. It's the one that peg-warmed for us for the longest, besides the Thor that nobody wanted. So, there is a truth to it. You can sell female action figures and they can be bestsellers, but they need to be characters that are actually popular, organically popular, not artificially. You can't sell a Miss Marvel figure. She's not popular. It's just a fact. Figures that they've forced out like Gwenpool, there's no fan base for those figures. The figure warms on the pegs and clogs up the distribution chain. It's a losing proposition. So, what they really need is they need to organize their characters into like A, B, C, as far as popularity goes. There's nothing wrong with sprinkling in a unpopular character here and there, but, maybe you do it in a 2-pack with a popular character. Do a really nice Spider-Man, then you stick Miss Marvel in there, like in a new version.
Just further evidence that what Marvel Studios strategy, that used to be the gold standard in entertainment, what Kevin Feige was doing, everything that they touched turned to gold. Everything that they made was a billion-dollar movie. We're seeing the profits and revenues go down outside of the popular characters like a Spider-Man or a Doctor Strange. All these new characters that they're putting out, not very popular. If you go onto the streaming services, the viewership shows the new stuff just isn't working. And in the merchandise sales, where you make the most money, it's not working there either. I want to thank Aaron Sparrow, my toy expert, for coming on and talking about this. Now, we've seen these arguments within the community before, specifically Todd McFarlane, Aaron talked about it earlier, talked about how boys want different toys than girls, and he was chastised, even though he's been in the toy business for like 15, 20 years now. You got to check this out. It's absolute insanity the way common sense is absolutely thrown out the window these days. People don't even know what the hell is going on anymore. If you're on a mobile device, there's a link in the video description.